Welcome to Cedar Point, also known as America's Rock and Roller Coast, an amusement park with the tallest roller coasters on this side of the planet. This Ohio park offers by far the best overall roller coaster collection on Earth. And here is how the 18 different roller coasters stack up at the park from the shortest to the tallest, followed by my thoughts on if Cedar Point would ever build a taller coaster in the future. Coming in at number 18 is Wilderness Run, featuring a lift hill height of only 19 feet. This classic intimate kid coaster doesn't do a whole lot, but that's the point. Though I will say that you do get a slight pop of airtime on this bunny hill right here. Number 17, Woodstock Express, featuring a lift hill height of 42.7 feet. This great family coaster provides a twisted layout and maintains a nice speed throughout it. And unlike Wilderness Run, you do not need a kid to ride with you to experience Woodstock Express. Number 16 is Cedar Creek Mine Ride, featuring a lift hill height of 48 feet. If you've never been to Cedar Point before, you have to take a ride on this classic aerodynamics mine train coaster. The setting that Cedar Creek Mine Ride offers really is beautiful, which makes the whole entire ride at least a little bit more enjoyable. Now just ignore the headache that you're going to get probably after you ride it. Number 15 is Wild Mouse, featuring a lift hill height of 52 feet. This colorful Zamperla spinning coaster is quite fun, I'll give it that. The layout really is enjoyable and maximizes the spinning of the trains. Though I will say, word on the street is this: never trust a company who builds a spinning Wild Mouse to reimagine a troubled coaster that is 420 feet tall. Just saying. Number 14 is Iron Dragon, coming in with a lift hill height of 76 feet. I, for one, hope that this aerodynamic suspended coaster is around for decades to come. Iron Dragon is just a fun ride from start to finish, and the setting in the woods really make this attraction a much better overall ride. The swinging cars are always a great thing when you're traveling throughout the trees and over the water, as Iron Dragon does. Number 13 is Blue Streak, and this coaster starts off with a lift hill of 78 feet and is Cedar Point's only true wooden coaster, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a very underrated ride because Blue Streak is awesome, and some might even argue that it's better than the racer down at Kings Island. You will love the airtime that this out and back wooden coaster provides, to go along with the great views of the park's Raptor. Seriously, when you go to Cedar Point, be sure to ride Blue Streak. Number 12 is Cor Screw, featuring a lift hill height of 85 feet. Believe it or not, but this was my very first roller coaster that I experienced that flipped riders upside down. And I first rode it way back when I was only 10 years old in 1993, and I loved it. Fast forward to now, because my opinions have changed, because I hate this ride due to how rough it is. Though I will say, the visuals you get as the train travels through the Corkscrew over the midway are worth the suffering of the jerkiness of the ride alone. Now it's time for the first of many coaster tips throughout this video. When you're riding Corkscrew, and if you want the smoothest ride experience, then ride in the first 2 rows of the train. Trust me on that, it's worth it. Number 11 is Maverick, standing at a height of 105 feet. Now some might argue this, and that's okay, but I prefer Maverick to steal Vengeance. That is how awesome this intimate blitz coaster is. And while it's clearly not the height that makes Maverick stand out, because it's all about the coaster's quick transitions, the inversions, that second launch, and the airtime. Maverick is just a special coaster from start to finish that is full of adrenaline. Number 10 is Gemini, featuring a lift hill height of 125 feet tall. You are looking at the world's largest mine train coaster, is what I call Cedar Point's Gemini, because essentially that is what it is. Gemini is a ton of fun, and I recommend not overlooking this classic aero racing coaster because you will be missing out on one of the most fun rides at Cedar Point. Number 9 is Raptor, standing at a height of 137 feet. Opening in 1994, Raptor was one of the first of 4 coasters from B&M that Cedar Point installed from the years 94 all the way to 2013. And Raptor is by far still the best B&M in the park. This inverted roller coaster has the slogan, Raptor rules the sky, and after you ride it and get flipped upside down 6 different times, you get why this ride really does rule the sky. The first drop off the 137 foot tall lift hill is one of the best in the entire park, and the way the coaster is positioned to run parallel with the main midway is really something else. Coaster tip: I recommend riding in the very front row for the visuals, but if you want the most intense ride experience, the back row all the way, especially on an outside seat. Number 12 is Rougarou, featuring a 145 foot tall lift hill. No matter what Cedar Point does with this ride, it's always going to get some hate. And look, I get it. It's not the smoothest by any means, but you cannot argue with me that this layout is not awesome. You really do have to appreciate the twisted layout and the placement that Cedar Point gave Rougarou and how the coaster interacts with the water below it, making for a very visual ride experience, especially with the amazing view that you get of Top Thrill 2's 420 foot tall spike as you're going up the coaster's lift hill. Seriously, that visual alone is worth riding Rougarou for. Cedar Point's newest coaster also happens to be the 7th tallest at the park. This is Sirens Curse, and it stands at a very impressive height of 160 feet. It is no secret that Vekoma has appeared to hit a home run with their new tilt coaster model because Sirens Curse looks like a fantastic ride from start to finish, and one could argue this coaster is rather short, and really it is. But the layout looks wild, and some of these elements that you'll get to experience on Sirens Curse will be some of the best that you're going to find in the entire park. I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to experience all the airtime that you're going to get on this impressive ride. Coaster tip: for the best views and to get most out of the tilt aspect of Sirens Curse, I recommend riding the very last car of the train. This way, you'll be in the highest position during the coaster's initial drop. Number 6 is GateKeeper. Dominating the front half of Cedar Point is this awesome coaster that stands at a height of 170 feet tall. It is no secret that GateKeeper is extremely popular, and it does offer one of the best drops that you're going to find at Cedar Point. That is because you get to experience GateKeeper's rollover dive drop element that gives you amazing views of the beaches and Lake Erie as you get flipped over at 170 feet above the ground, making this element the tallest inversion that you're going to find at Cedar Point. The rest of GateKeeper features inversions, a wonderful airtime hill, and of course the interaction with the front gate, making it a must ride for anyone visiting Cedar Point. Coaster tip: for the best ride experience, I recommend riding in the very last row of the train so you get pulled through the first drop and inversion. If you love Cedar Point, then you have to check out keepridingcoasters.com for my line of merch that is inspired by some of the best coasters that you're going to find at Cedar Point, like my original Giga tee. Next up is the first of the 5 coasters that travel over 200 feet into the sky that you're going to find at Cedar Point. Number 5 is Magnum XL200, standing at a height of 205 feet. There is a reason why the world's first ever full circuit hypercoaster is still so popular today, even though it opened way back in 1989. Standing at the height of 205 feet, Magnum XL200 offers a layout that is considered an out and back. And you're going to find some amazing drops, 3 tunnels to go along with some of the best airtime that you're going to find in Ohio, and the coaster's very unusual pretzel loop turnaround. Now don't worry, because you do not actually go upside down, but this turnaround element really is awesome. But for Magnum, it's all about that return leg, because it's airtime heaven, because you're going to go over so many great airtime hills leading back to the station. And fast forward to present day, there is a reason why Magnum is still one of the best coasters at Cedar Point. Coaster tip: the magic seat on Magnum would be the last row of the first car. In other words, 3 rows from the front of the train. Trust me, this row is glorious. Number 4 is still Vengeance, also 205 feet tall. What most would label the best coaster at Cedar Point, and rightfully so. Steel Vengeance offers one of the best ride experiences in the entire world. I really do love and appreciate how this 205 foot tall massive hybrid coaster dominates the back half of Cedar Point. Though I will say, the first half of Steel Vengeance is by far the highlight of the ride for me. Coaster tip: I recommend riding Steel Vengeance in the back row for the most intense ride experience, and the front row or the second to front for the best ejector airtime. Either row you choose, you're going to love Steel Vengeance. That's how awesome this ride is. Number 3 is Val Raven, standing at a height of 223 feet. This B&M dive coaster gives you stellar views of the entire park down below. The first drop is awesome, mainly because of how you're looking dead straight out into Lake Erie. And Val Raven's second drop also gives you the perfect view of Top Thrill 2 in the back half of Cedar Point. As for the ride itself, Val Raven really is an enjoyable experience for sure. It's just not really an intense ride. Coaster tip: I recommend sitting on an outside row for the wildest experience possible. But remember, for the best views of the drop, the front row is always the best. Number 2, the original Giga, Millennium Force, featuring a cable lift hill of 310 feet tall. You are looking at Cedar Point's tallest roller coaster that features a lift hill, and it's also one of the park's best. There is a reason why Millennium Force has consistently ranked as one of the best coasters in the entire world every single year since it opened way back in the year 2000. The views that you get of Lake Erie and Cedar Point as you travel 17 feet every single second up the cable lift is really something. But for me, it's all about the sheer size of the lift hill and that drop. Millie's first drop doesn't get talked about enough in my opinion. Coaster tip: since you are going to wait longer for a front row ride on Millie than you will when you visit your local DMV, I recommend riding the very last row. Going over the top of the 310 foot tall lift hill in the back row is just perfect. Which brings me to number 1, standing at a height of 420 feet tall, is Top Thrill 2, Cedar Point's best lawn ornament. There isn't any coaster in America that you can ride that offers two elements that are 420 feet tall. Top Thrill 2 is all about the height and the speed, and when you travel backwards up the 420 foot tall vertical spike, honestly, words cannot describe this feeling. Seeing all the nearby attractions and the people get smaller and smaller as you go higher and higher really is just insane, and honestly my second favorite part of Top Thrill 2. That is because, in my opinion, after my 4 rides on it, the best part is how fast the train travels up and over the 420 foot tall top hat, offering you amazing views of the point and Lake Erie down below to go along with some great airtime. Coaster tip: after my 4 rides, I prefer the last row due to how much higher that you feel going up that vertical spike. Now don't get me wrong, the front row is the best for the views, but when it comes to Top Thrill 2, for me, it's all about that spike. Which brings me to the biggest question: would and could Cedar Point ever build a taller coaster than Top Thrill 2? After all, they were the first park to ever build a full circuit coaster over 200 feet, 300 feet, and 400 feet. With Top Thrill 2 being the park's new toy, I do not think we will see Cedar Point build a taller coaster before the year 2040 at least. And it's crazy to me because people often say and think that Cedar Point is out of room to expand and add new coasters. But the truth is, they're wrong. And to prove that to you, I wanted to explore the park and hope to find just where Cedar Point could build their next roller coaster, and in this showcase video at the bottom of your screen, I share with you 5 great plots of land where the park could build their next coaster without removing an existing one. So my question to you is, which coaster at Cedar Point is your favorite and why? Be sure to let me know in the comments. This is Theme Park Brandon, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.